Yo, what's good guys, I'm JB Hoops and today I got a video on Johnny Davis, the sophomore out of Wisconsin. On the season he averaged 19.7 points, 8.2 rebounds and 2.1 assists, along with over a steal and 0.7 blocks on the defensive end. His shooting splits weren't great, but he still shot 43% from the field and just over 30% from 3, whilst also shooting over 79% from the line. Now let's get into the breakdown. One of Johnny Davis's biggest strengths to his game is his elite self-creation and shot-making ability. He's a very solid athlete and at 6'5" has very good strength. He's definitely one of the best shot creators in this class and can get to his spots on the court with ease. He's unfazed by poor starts and missed shots, and overall he's just an absolute bucket. He's a great shooter off the dribble and is able to create enough space to comfortably get his shots off. Johnny Davis loves going left into his pull-up and he operates in the mid-range a little bit like Devin Booker, but he can also create from behind the arc. He's a little bit undersized for a 2-guard at only 6'5", but he will likely play much more off the ball in the league and should get better catch and shoot looks from deep, which should increase his percentages as he only shot 30.6% from 3 on the season. Whilst his ability to make tough shots and create looks for himself is his major strength, in my opinion he's also a very good shooter off the catch and as a spot-up shooter. I believe he can shoot much better than his percentages this year show. He shot about 38% from 3 in his freshman season with a reduced roll, and he has pretty smooth mechanics with a quick release and a high arc on his shot. Now that's not to say there aren't concerns with his offense and shooting in particular, with the main one being his shot selection IQ. Because he is a tough shot maker, he does shoot a lot of shots that would be considered by a lot of people to be bad shots, tough, off-balance fadeaways, and contested shots. So in the league, I think with a much more reduced role, which he's going to have early on especially, because he was the guy in Wisconsin, he kind of had the freedom to do whatever he wanted and get off heaps of shots. So he did kind of display a little bit of tunnel vision, not finding his teammates when he needed to, and just taking bad shots. But I think with a lesser role in the league, he'll definitely be able to fix that and it shouldn't be an issue. Whilst there are a lot of guys that get drafted into the league due to their tough shot making ability, Johnny Davis is also great on the other side of the ball as a defender. He's a really good defender who can guard a wide range of skill sets and play styles. I think in the NBA he'll be a guy you can trust to guard 1 through 3 and possibly some smaller forwards, using his strength and length to stay in front of and pressure ball handlers. He's also a pretty good shot blocking guard, averaging 0.7 blocks per game, and he's very active on the defensive end with great hands, averaging over a steal per game. Unlike a lot of prospects that are extremely offensively talented, Johnny Davis has a high motor on the defensive side. He fights over screens, makes stuff extremely difficult for whoever he's guarding, but there's definitely still a few things I'd like to see him clean up on the defensive side. He's not always the most consistent guy, but I think that probably stems from his fatigue levels, having to carry the offensive load. He's also not a great lateral mover, but he tries really hard, looks to have a plus wingspan, but there's no official wingspan measurements out there. And then there's the other few standard mistakes like poor closeouts and defensive lapses. But for the most part, Johnny Davis is a very good defender who I think will have no trouble guarding multiple positions in the NBA. Another underrated part of Johnny Davis's game is his playmaking ability. He's improved drastically over the course of the season compared to last season especially, averaging 2.1 assists, but them numbers don't really reflect his ability. Now he's definitely not a point guard or a playmaker type, but he uses his commanding offensive presence to draw in defenders and set up open teammates. But I have noticed at times he can be pretty predictable with his passes, but given he's going to be more of a scoring guard in the league anyway, it's not too much of an issue. I'd like to see him become a bit more crafty with his handle, and his lack of explosiveness sometimes holds him back as a playmaker and a scorer. But I think Johnny Davis's playmaking potential is definitely an underrated aspect of his game. Next up, I want to talk about his finishing ability. Johnny Davis is a pretty good athlete, but he's not super explosive, and that does kind of hinder his finishing ability. But whilst he's not an exceptional athlete, he does still have a pretty quick first step and has the ability to blow by defenders and get to the rim. But against quicker and more physical defenders in the NBA, I think he might struggle in this area, especially early on, and that's why I would like to see him become more crafty with his handle. And he's also a bit one-dimensional with his finishes at the rim, and that just makes him a little bit easier to guard, as he's mostly a below the rim finisher. But one thing that definitely does help his finishing ability is his elite touch around the rim. Johnny Davis has a really solid floater and runner with super soft touch, which makes him a threat in the pick and roll as a scorer, as he can pull up for his bread and butter in the mid-range, or he can get a bit deeper in the paint and throw up a floater. He definitely uses this as a counter, as he's not super great at finishing at the basket, especially through contact, but he does seek contact a lot and gets to the free throw line about 6 times per game, so that's not an issue at all. Another area of Johnny Davis' game that I really find impressive is his post game. Now, he is only 6'5", and the post game isn't really a thing in the NBA anymore, but he has an elite mid-range ability and has the size and strength to post up smaller guards, and he usually goes to his turnaround given his elite mid-range ability. But this is also another display of his elite touch around the rim. But his post game and ability to hit the turnaround just adds another aspect to his game, making him impossible to guard. To wrap it up, I think Johnny Davis is almost a lock to be a top 10 pick in this draft, and will definitely be picked between that 5 to 10 range. I think he has a lot of upside in the league as a scorer and a shooter. Despite his poor shooting splits, I think he's much better than that. And he will also give whatever team drafts him great intensity and effort on the defensive end. I can't really think of any good comps for him. A high-end one could be Devin Booker, just because of the way they operate and kill guys in the mid-range, and they're not super elite athletes or anything. And then I've seen a few people also say something like Josh Hart, which I can sort of see because of their defensive abilities, great rebounding for a guard. Johnny Davis pulls down 8.2 a game, which is kind of insane. But I think Johnny Davis definitely has more scoring upside. Alright, that's all I got for this one. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. JB Hoops.